Today we're going to be talking about something you've heard of, the Nephilim, the demigods and transhumans. And to me, they're all related terms. And I want to ask a very simple question. Is it even worth talking about? Is this a tangent? Is this just mere myth? Or is it a present concern? So I'm going to do something that's not usual. I usually give you lots of scriptures first. I'm not going to do that. I'll just show you a little bit, but then we're going to get to things that I think will stir some interest. What do you think? Who is this? Who is that? This is a hybrid. This is the hybrid. A hybrid is an offspring of cross-breeding or mixing two different entities together. This is a Bush Obama. Is this a lion or a tiger? Yeah, it's a liger. It's called a hybrid. It's genetically mixing two different species, but they're in the same kind. So the Bible talks about this genetic manipulation. The first instance of genetic engineering is in Genesis chapter 6. The Bible has something to say about everything. But I'm telling you, I'm not even going to get deep into it. I'm just going to touch on it, and we'll go through some of the examples. Genesis 6, chapter 6, verse 1. Now it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that sons of God, that's a term that means the direct creation of God, angels in this case, saw the daughters of men, and that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. Verse 4. And there were giants. Please say giants. Okay, this is not the offspring of natural, breeding of humans. The whole theory that it's the sons of Seth marrying evil women goes out the window because it does not produce giant offspring, and the word is Nephilim in the Hebrew. There were Nephilim on the earth in those days and also afterwards, so two periods of time. Before, in those days, Noah's days, and then afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men and they bore children to them, those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. In other words, it's a very bold claim in the Bible saying that something unique, strange happened, and the offspring, the hybrid that were produced, they're famous. You know about them, is what the Bible's saying, right? So it's a pretty bold claim that everybody already knows about that. How do we interpret that? You just go to the New Testament and let the Bible be its own commentary. Jude chapter 1, verse 6 to 7 from the New English Translation. Jude, the half-brother of Jesus, says, you also know, again, it's like a given, They say, if I say, you know who won the election, that means you know the results. In fact, right now, we still don't know the results. But if I said, you know, that means it's been reported. True? I wouldn't say you know who won the election unless you knew. It's common knowledge. So Jude says, you know that the angels who did not keep within their proper domain but abandoned their own place of residence, he has kept in eternal chains in utter darkness, locked up for the judgment of the great day. Verse 7, so also Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring towns, since they indulge in sexual immorality and pursued unnatural desire in a way similar to these angels, are now displayed as an example of suffering the punishment of eternal fire. So he makes a comparison, all right, that the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah are very much like the sins that the angels committed ages ago. Is it clear then that the sons of God who went to the daughters of men were the fallen angels? If it's not clear, you go to Jewish tradition, Enoch, the book of Enoch, which seems to be endorsed by Jude himself. He quotes it. And it used to be in the canon of Scripture, and I think in the Ethiopian version, either the Coptic or the Ethiopian, they still keep the book of Enoch in the Bible. So Enoch chapter 12, verse 4 and 5. Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, go declare to the watchers of the heaven, who have left the high heaven, the holy eternal place, and have defiled themselves with women, and have done as the children of earth do, and have taken unto themselves wives. Ye have wrought great destruction on the earth, and ye shall have no peace nor forgiveness of sin. That was the reaction from God. There's no forgiveness for this. You're going straight to the Abuso or Tartarus. And Daniel talks about these watchers. Daniel chapter 4, verse 17, the matter is by the decree of the watchers. So the watchers are the holy angels that came down, and they were the watchers over people. They watched over people. But Enoch says that 200 of them decided to rebel and create this genetic hybrid called the Nephilim. And Enoch goes on about it. Enoch chapter 15, verses 2 to 4. You can read all that yourselves. All right. So are they a tangent? Are they tangent or are they central to our life? In case you don't know, tangent is a geometry term. Here's a circle. There's the center of a circle, and the tangent is, any line that just touches it. It's not quite in the circle. It's certainly not center of the circle. It's just tangent. The tangent line touches the circle at a point called the tangent point. So is it just tangent or is it central? Well, I like to take things out to the big picture. And let's start from big and we'll go small, okay? We live in a place that God created called the solar system. There are presently 8 planets and 3 minor planets, 11 in total, 11 for the number of chaos. It's in the book, The Divine Code. From 1 to 2020, I explain all the different meanings of different numbers. There are 11 planetary bodies right now that we know in the solar system. I want to look at them. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. Guess where it got its name from? The messenger God, the guide to the underworld, the son of Zeus and Maya. Who is he? He's a Nephilim. And when you look at the stars and stuff, it's really interesting how these ancients, they had all these names, and when you look at it and you compare it to the story of God, it's just amazing how many truths you can get out of it. For this one, I just point very quickly that Mercury is closest to the heat of the sun. And I personally hold the view that the sun is the lake of fire. And so Mercury is a very appropriate messenger to take people to the lake of fire because he's the one that's closest to it. The next planet is Venus. It's the hottest planet because it has an atmosphere. So Mercury is so close, the atmosphere is burned up. So it's not the hottest. Venus is the hottest. It's the only planet to spin in the reverse direction of the Earth. It's like the opposite of the Earth, and yet it's very close to the Earth. It's right next to us. Gets its name from the goddess of love, Venus. Who is she? Nephilim. And she's the subject of many pieces of artwork, like this one that you may have seen. So very appropriate. She's like the Earth, but she spins in the opposite direction of the Earth. It's like, man and women, often opposite. The Earth is the only planet that is not named after a Nephilim in our solar system. There's no consensus on how did we get the name the Earth, but I have a proposal. It sounds a lot like the Hebrew word Eretz. The word Eretz means land. It can mean Israel or it can mean the whole planet. Sounds like Eretz, doesn't it? And of course, the center of Eretz is Eretz, the Eretz of Israel. And this is a map from 1581. And of course, you know that the whole division of the world, we call it the eastern, east, the east, and the west. Well, what is that? Those are reference points from Israel. Now we have a better map, but the truth remains that if you live east of Israel, you're called an Easterner. You live west of Israel, you're called a Westerner. So everything points back to the central location of God's territory. God has claimed a very small piece of land for himself and his people. Is that interesting? And if you don't know, all languages point that way. So that's why that if you look at the ancient languages in the East, they write from right to left. But all the languages of the West write from left to right. Because everything in the world points to the Messiah, points to his land, points to Israel. All right, so that explains a lot. Without a biblical worldview, you wouldn't get any of that. You wouldn't understand why things are the way they are. The next planet is called Mars. It's the red planet. It has a very big, deep scar across its surface. It looks like something catastrophic happened there. It looks like almost like there was a war there. All right, something happened. It's the red planet, the color of blood and of war, so not surprisingly, it's named after this dude, He's the god of war. His name is Mars, and he's the son of Zeus and Hera, and he had twins. According to mythology, he had twins named Phobos and Deimos. He's a Nephilim, and guess what? When we look out into space and look at the planet Mars, Mars has 2 moons, and they're named Phobos and Deimos. Well, how did the ancient people know that Mars had 2 moons? We have a hard enough time looking for the planets. It's certainly difficult, if not impossible, to see the moons of these planets. You can see they're very irregularly shaped, very small. But just like in mythology, Mars had a twin. Also, the planet Mars has a twin. You find that interesting? Fascinating. The ancients knew a lot more than we give them credit for. Now, in between Mars and Jupiter, I just got to put this picture up. There's a thing called the asteroid belt, and it may be the remnants of a planet that exploded, maybe during the Luciferian fall, maybe during some other event. But something happened. It looked like a planet just exploded and left a trail of asteroid belts. And the largest asteroid in the asteroid belt has a name, Ceres. Ceres comprises 1/3 of the entire mass of the asteroid belt, and it is now considered a dwarf planet. It's the smallest of the dwarf planets. Well, where did we get that name from? By the way, that's what it looks like compared to the Earth and the Moon. It's about that size. Well, it's so interesting that NASA has sent the Dawn spacecraft to the asteroid belt, which is tasked with visiting the 2 largest asteroids. It's already visited Vesta from July 2011 to September 2012, and it's going to reach Ceres by February 2015. When NASA spends billions of dollars sending something to 2 rocks that nobody has heard of unless you study astronomy, all the conspiracy theories just start, buzzing around the internet. What is going on? Is there something going on Ceres that makes NASA so interested in it? Is it doing something? Is it kicking out asteroids towards us? Is there something going on? I don't know, but I know it's significant that NASA is sending this probe to go and circle this thing very soon. Ceres is named after this goddess, the goddess of the harvest, one of the wives of Zeus. She's the daughter of Cronus, or Saturn, and Rhea. Right? And she is a Nephilim. Next, we have Jupiter, called the king planet. It is the largest planet in the solar system, and it is about to go into the womb of Virgo very soon and stay there for 41 weeks, which is the normal period of gestation. Very interesting. The king planet is going to go into almost, into a perfect pregnancy term. That's from November 2016 to September 2017. Named after the god of the sky and the god of thunderbolt. He is the king of the gods. In mythology, he defeated Kronos, or Saturn, and the Titans, and he saved his siblings. So he's kind of a mixed metaphor representing both the 2nd generation hybrid. There are many generations of the hybrid, and they map it out with a family tree. These guys who were very intelligent gave us, calculus and amazing, well, not calculus, Newton did that, but, amazing geometry and arithmetic and all this science. These people took the mythology of the gods very seriously. And their gods were not gods like we think of. Not a God that lives forever and, is impervious to pain and destruction, but these gods were jealous, they fought each other, they betrayed each other, they killed each other, and it's very much like the mythology of the Hindus. So something was going on the earth around that time, around the same time, where all these very intelligent civilizations recorded the same stories. So Jupiter is the main guy, and he also represents not only the hybrid, but he also represents the Son of God. Son of God, because he defeats Saturn. Saturn sounds just like Satan, doesn't it? And so does Titan. All right, Saturn is a very beautiful planet, but its number tells us something ominous. It is the 6th planet. And 6 is not a good number. 6 is not a good number. 666, bad. You don't have to know much of the Bible. Hey, that's bad. Well, what is so bad about Saturn? He's a bad boy. There is a mysterious six-sided hexagon on its north pole. The hexagon is a symbol of the devil. 6 is a symbol of the devil. Something really is strange about this planet because a hexagon is not a naturally occurring shape in nature, and yet the 6 well-defined sides maintain shape even while rotating. Nobody can explain this, other than if we have a biblical worldview and we understand that the 6th planet represents Satan. Saturn sounds like Satan, represents him, and in fact his name comes from the betrayer of Uranus, Saturn. In other words, Satan, all right? The one who betrayed God. Uranus is the 7th planet. How about that? If you don't know anything about Uranus, you think 7's a good number? Yeah, a number that God claims for himself. Uranus has some unique things. It's the first planet to be discovered, because all the other planets I've mentioned before, they could see since ancient times. So it's the first one to be discovered in 1781 by William Herschel. I think that's interesting. It's kind of like God has hidden himself, waiting for those who are advanced, those who are intelligent, to discover him. It's a great metaphor, and he happens to be the 7th one. Nothing is by accident. Everything in this universe is a play, is a theater that represents God, that points back to his Son, Jesus Christ. It's the only planet that rolls instead of spins. Most planets go around the sun like a spinning top. But this cool dude rolls. And the rings are in a different, it's perpendicular to its orbital plane and the orbital plane of most other planets. It has no visible storm. It's made of water and ice, but has no visible storms. Certainly, they believe that, there's wind and things going on there, but it's a featureless planet. Named after Uranus, who is the father of Saturn, and in Greek mythology, the first ruler of the universe. So I believe that is the Greeks' way of calling Jehovah God, the Creator God. They gave him the name Uranus. Next to him is Neptune. Earth is obviously not anywhere near Neptune, but that's a size comparison. It's the 8th and the last planet that we have right now. 8th and last planet. This was seen by Galileo in 1612, but he didn't think it was a planet. Again, I don't know if I got the name mixed up here. You'll have to look it up, but this was discovered here, according to this, in 1781. Although it's similar to Uranus, Neptune's atmosphere is notable for its active and visible weather patterns, most notably its great dark spot. And you see there's a storm in the middle of Neptune, similar to the great red spot on the planet Jupiter. And where does it get its name from? The god Neptune, or Poseidon. That's the god of the oceans. Who is he? He's a Nephilim. Then we have Pluto, who used to be a planet, but because we found out he's only 20% of the Earth's diameter and only 0.2% of Earth's mass, he's in fact smaller than our moon, and yet he has his own moon named Charon. It was discovered in 1930, and Pluto is Hades. Hades means hell. It was demoted to a dwarf planet on August 24th, 2006. And I say to that, hallelujah. Hell got demoted in modern times. It is actually not a planet, but a binary system. They now call it a dwarf double planet. So if you could be on the surface of Pluto, this is probably what the sun looks like from Pluto, a very small, tiny speck. And its moon would be quite unusually large on the sky, in the sky. So, interesting. And it's named after this god, Pluto or Hades, the god of hell, or the god of the underworld. Who is he? He's a Nephilim, or I would in fact call him straight out a demon. His moon is Charon. Who is he? He's the ferryman of Hades, carrying wicked souls across the river Styx to hell. Who is he? He's a Nephilim, or it can be said, he's a demon. Interesting thing, the spacecraft New Horizons is scheduled to fly by Pluto and Charon on the 14th of July, 2015, carrying an ounce of the cremated remains of Clyde Tombaugh, discoverer of the dwarf planet. The craft also contains a coin, a Florida state quarter, just as Greeks used to put a silver coin in the mouth of the dead. Because they believe that if you don't put a silver coin in the mouth of a dead person, then you haven't paid Charon for the ferry trip, and the person won't make it across. So, do you think that Greek mythology is still influencing even supposedly smart people today? And I don't know what the fate of this guy is, because a resurrection is coming, and an ounce of his body needs to be returned from the spacecraft New Horizons. Because everybody else dies and stays on this planet. You know what I mean? Our resurrected bodies is composed of some of the molecules that used to be in us. Well, metaphorically, or you could say, I would say metaphorically, I find it fascinating that man will arrive in hell in 2015. And that happens to be the end of the war tetrad from 2014 to 15 that we've been studying. At the same time that the moon and the sun announces that there's a war tetrad, 4 blood moons consecutively on God's feast, at the same time, man reaches a place that man named hell, Pluto. Does that put goosebumps all over you or not? That is some strange happening in our time. Then they found another planet, but they don't call it a planet because it doesn't qualify, but they say it's the most massive dwarf planet. It's bigger than Pluto. It's the 9th most massive body revolving around the sun. It was discovered in 2005. It has 1 moon named Dysnomia. Okay, so Eris is the name, the moon is Dysnomia. What does that mean? Eris is the goddess of strife or discordia, and Eris had a daughter named Dysnomia, which means lawlessness. So the last thing man discovers is strife and lawlessness at the edges of hell. You think that's a metaphor for what we're about to go into as a world? Amazing, isn't it? Obviously, Eris, Discordia, and Dysnomia are both Nephilim. All right, so let me summarize them for you. For those who like charts and tables more than pictures. The first planet is Mercury, gets its name from the Roman god Mercury. The Greek version is Hermes, god of the underworld, Nephilim. Venus is the Roman god Venus. The Greek version is Aphrodite, goddess of love, Nephilim. Earth probably gets its name from Eretz, the only one that is not named after a Nephilim. Mars is the Roman god Mars. Greek version is Ares, god of war, Nephilim. Jupiter, Roman version, Jupiter, Greek name Zeus, god of sky, god of the thunderbolt, Nephilim. Saturn, named after Roman Saturn, or Greek Kronos. Kronos was in some recent sci-fi movie. Father of Zeus. And identity, I would say that's Satan himself. Uranus, it's the Roman name of a Greek god, Uranus. Father of Saturn, first ruler of the world, that would be God. Neptune is Roman. The Greek version is Poseidon, god of the oceans, Nephilim. Pluto is Pluto or Hades, god of hell, that's a demon. Eris and Discordia in Rome. By the way, it's the only one that they seem to pick the Roman, they pick the Greek version instead of the Roman version. Eris, goddess of strife, Nephilim. So how about this? 9 out of our 11 planetary bodies are all named after Nephilim. Did you know that? Is this just a tangent, or is this something more? Then we come to our days. We name our days after the gods. Sunday is Sun Day. Monday is Moon Day. Tuesday is Twig's Day or Mars Day. Twig is the Norse version. Now we got another mythology, the Nordic or the Norse version of the same story. Mars Day, the god of war. So Tuesday is the day of war for some reason. Wednesday is Woden's Day or Mercury's Day, the god to the underworld. Thursday is Thor's Day. Thor is the main god in the Norse mythology. So that's Jupiter, the god of the thunderbolt. In fact, the exact same symbolism. That's what Thor's Day or Thursday is. Friday is Frigg's Day or Venus Day, the goddess of love. Saturday is Saturn's Day, which refers to Satan, or, depending on the European language, Sabbath Day, which would refer to God. So here, for those who like tables, I give you different languages. Sunday, or dimanche, or domingo in French and Spanish, refers to either God in the Latin languages or the sun in the Norse version. Identity is God. Monday, lundi in French, lunes in Spanish, refers to the moon. They all refer to the moon. That's a goddess. Tuesday is mardi or martes, which is definitely Mars, the god of war. That's a Nephilim. So we got a day named after a Nephilim. Wednesday, mercredi in French, or miércoles in Spanish, named after Mercury, Nephilim. Thursday is jeudi or jueves in Spanish. It's named after Jupiter. We just took Thor, the Nordic version of the same person. Friday is vendredi in French, or viernes in Spanish, named after Venus, the goddess of love, Nephilim. Saturday, in the French and Spanish, they say samedi or sabato, which is actually from Sabbath, which is good. But we took Saturn, which is a Nephilim. So there you go. We name our days after the Nephilim. How about the months of the year? We got January to December. Where do we get these from? January is Janus's month. February is from Februa. March is from Mars. April is from Aphrodite. May is from Maya. June is from Juno. July is from Julius Caesar. August is from Augustus Caesar. September, October, November, December are actually just Latin numbers. 7, 8, 9, 10. So what are the meaning? Janus is a two-faced god of the gates. Two-faced. Why? Because in January, you're looking back to December and you're looking forward to the new year. It's a two-faced god. I learned that in high school English, by the way. Februa is a Roman festival of purification. Mars is obviously god of war, Ares. Aphrodite is the goddess of love, Venus. Maya was the daughter of Atlas, one of the 7 Pleiades. Juno is another name for Zeus's wife, Hera. Now, Julius Caesar is interesting because Julius Caesar is a real person, but his namesake is Jove's child, or Jupiter's son. So it's still referring to Jupiter. And in English, we have this saying, by Jove. Have you ever heard that? By Jove. What is that? It's the old pagan way of saying, I swear. On oath. By Jove. By Jupiter, I swear. I'm telling you the truth. But, we as Christians would say, I swear by God, but you don't have to swear anymore because you're supposed to always tell the truth. So Jesus says, don't even swear by the temple anymore, because you should let your yes be yes, your no be no. You should never lie anyway. So July still refers to one of the gods. August is Augustus Caesar. Augustus just means venerable, was a real person. And then the seven, why 7, even though it's the 9th month on the calendar? Because it refers to the 7th month on the Hebrew calendar, Tishri. Then the 8th month is Keshvan, 9th month is Kislev, 10th month is Tevet. So obviously these people knew the Hebrew months. All right? And the identity of these namesakes: January named after a Nephilim, March named after a Nephilim, April Nephilim, May Nephilim, June Nephilim. July, an emperor whose name is from a Nephilim. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 6 months out of 12 named after Nephilim. Are you getting what I'm trying to show you? People think that this is tangent. People think that the Bible mentions it, as a passing comment. But in fact, it's so much a part of our lives that we don't even know. Let's look at our periodic table of chemical elements. Cerium, named after Ceres, a Nephilim. Europium, named after Europa, the Phoenician girl that got raped by Zeus. That's a human. Helium. We use the word helium all the time, don't you? Helium is a Nephilim, is Helios, the Greek sun god. Mercury. In a thermometer, there's mercury. Well, that's the god Mercury, the guide to the underworld, the Nephilim who takes you to hell. Neptunium, named after Neptune, the god of the oceans, a Nephilim. Plutonium. Now we're getting to space-age stuff. Plutonium. You can make a bomb out of plutonium. Guess what? Pluto, the guardian of hell, a demon. Apropos, isn't it? A plutonium bomb is named after hell. Promethium, named after Prometheus, a titan punished by Zeus and Nephilim. Selenium, named after Selene, a titan moon goddess, Nephilim. Thorium, named after the Norse god Thor, god of thunderbolt, Nephilim. Titanium, you ever touched titanium, bought anything made of titanium, heard of titanium? Why is titanium so strong? Because it's named after Titan, the first generation of giants, Nephilim. And uranium. You know uranium, the stuff that's inside the atomic bomb? Named after Uranus, the first ruler of the universe. The most powerful thing that man's ever built or exploded is named after God. Is that interesting? All right. Let's come back to Earth. We have a North Atlantic and South Atlantic Ocean. Where is that from? It's from a god named Atlas. He's a titan. He lost the war against Zeus. He was condemned. Actually, Zeus condemned most of the titans to Tartarus, which is the center of hell, but made Atlas stand on Gaia, which is earth, to hold up Uranus, sky, to separate them. He is either a Nephilim, or I imagine he might be a watcher, one of the angels that fell and then made it with the women. We have the Atlas Mountains. They range across Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia. We have the myth of Atlantis, a mythical continent described by Plato, Solon, and Egyptian priests. This is a map by Athanasius Kircher in 1669, saying that there was a continent in between Europe and the Americas. It's described as an advanced civilization. Myth says that they came to attack Greece but met with tragedy because in one day it sank into the ocean. Named after the god of astronomy and navigation, the son of Iapetus, and Asia, a Nephilim. The continent Asia is the biggest continent in the world. It contains 30% of the landmass of the earth. It's the most populous continent. 4 billion people live there. In other words, 60% of humanity lives on Asia. Did any Asian know where the name Asia comes from? Yep, Nephilim. The wife of Iapetus, the mother of Atlas, Prometheus, and a bunch of others. She's the daughter of Oceanus and Tethys, the granddaughter of Uranus and Gaia. Nephilim. Europe, named after Europa, who was a Phoenician or an Arab mortal, a woman that was abducted to the Greek island of Crete and raped by Zeus. And you can see stamps and coins featuring this. This is not something in the ancient past. It's on their modern currency. And Europa gave birth to a bunch of Nephilim like Minos. If you ever go to Crete, Minos is the father of the Minoan civilization, a very advanced civilization that just appeared out of nowhere. How do you understand civilizations that build amazing architecture that lasts 3,000 years later? We can't even build a house that lasts for 10 years. The Bible worldview tells you these guys had help. They were hybrids, and they got advanced technology from the fallen angels. Then, if you go to Egypt, still there today, the Sphinx. What is that? It's a Nephilim. It's a human with a lion body and eagle wings. These Sphinx are not just the imagination of the Egyptians. They're everywhere. You can find the Sphinx in palaces of Darius the Great. That's a Persian in 480 BC. The oldest Sphinx is the lower left corner at a palace of Queen Hetepheres II. All of these things are hybrids, Nephilim. Egypt was ruled by hybrids. Queen Nefertiti's skull is always elongated. Shows you she was not fully human. She's a hybrid, Nephilim. The art from ancient Egypt shows giants with elongated heads worshiping Helio, the sun god, Nephilim. You go over to India and Southeast Asia, you find the most famous story, the Ramayana, depicts demigods, giants like the yak, which appear in the art of Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Sri Lanka. Who are the yaks? Nephilim. Ravana, the antagonist of Ramayana, abducted Rama's wife Sita and cut off the wings of Jatayu. Hinduism is replete with stories of demigods, human hybrids, and animal hybrids. How come they all talking about the same thing? The ancients cared about these demigods, but surely modern people have evolved beyond this cult of hybrid demigods. Surely we don't care about that anymore. Is that right? I'm going to answer that question in the next session.